the heart of this nation, under skies so blue,
there's a spirit that's stirring, values strong and true.
from the mountains to the prairies, from the cities to the sea, we stand for liberty, for faith and family. We're diving deep into the heart of what we believe.
Okay, so let's dive into a moment, described by one particular article happening right there in the Oval Office. It brings together some, well, pretty big names from tech, politics, and the media.
Yeah, and our source for this deep dive, just so everyone's clear, is an article from townhall.com. It focuses on a specific exchange involving Elon Musk, the press, with President Trump right there, too.
Exactly. And our goal today really is to unpack this article's account of that interaction. We want to look at the key moments it highlights, the comments, the reactions.
It's really get a handle on what this source says happened and maybe what it emphasizes, right?
Right. We're putting on the lens of this one specific report.
Yeah.
So the context it gives us is that Elon Musk's work with the Trump administration, specifically with something called the Department of Government Efficiency, was apparently winding down.
The article does note that this role supposedly attracted some negative attention from what the article calls the left.
Right, but it says Musk took it in stride.
Yeah, that's the phrasing used. And President Trump, according to this account, seemed to suggest Musk wasn't, going far.
Oh, okay. The article actually quotes him, doesn't it, and saying something like, Elon's really not leaving, he's going to be back.
Yeah, and adding that he was very impressed with his work. So this whole interaction reportedly happened around that time during that transition.
Gotcha. So the setting, according to this town hall piece, is an Oval Office gaggle with the press.
Right, like an informal press briefing. And Musk was apparently talking about his government efficiency work, maybe what's next.
And this is where, in the article's telling anyway, one specific exchange really became the focus. A question was reportedly put to Musk from the New York Times.
Yeah, this seems to be the core moment the article wants to zoom in on.
Yeah.
When asked about something the Times had reported, the article describes Musk's response as, well, snarky.
Snarky, okay. How so?
Well, he reportedly shot back a question, asking if it was, and I'm quoting the article here, the same New York Times that got a Pulitzer for its fake news reporting on the Russian collusion hoax.
Wow, okay. That's quite a direct challenge. Did it stop there?
No, the article quotes him going further, saying the paper should actually return that award.
Return the Pulitzer. Okay.
Those are the specific words the source attributes to Musk. Now, what's also really interesting in this account is how it describes President Trump's reaction during that specific exchange.
Right. What did the article say about that?
It says he was reportedly beaming, just beaming, as Musk was making these comments about the Times and the Pulitzer.
Beaming. That's a very specific detail for the article to include, isn't it?
It is. And the report also mentions that Musk followed up later on social media.
Oh, okay. What did he say there, according to the source?
Well, it quotes Musk stating, again, reportedly his words, "The New York Times is pure propaganda." And then reiterating that he can't wait until they have to return their Pulitzer for their deliberate lies about the Russia hoax. That will be a good day.
So reinforcing the point he apparently made in the Oval Office.
Exactly. The article presents these as his direct statements. And, just for context for you listening, the whole Russian collusion hoax framing refers to the reporting and investigations around alleged ties between the Trump campaign and Russia.
Right. Coverage for which the New York Times and others did receive a Pulitzer Prize. It's obviously remained a really contentious point.
Absolutely. And this source, this town hall article, is clearly highlighting Musk's direct pushback against that specific reporting and the award itself.
Okay, so sticking just to what this article tells us about that meeting. That Sharp exchange wasn't the only thing it mentioned, right? It talks about another question Musk apparently did like.
That's right, yeah. It says a reporter from the Daily Caller asked him this kind of unusual question. What do you think would be easier, colonizing Mars or making the government efficient?
Okay, that is quite the question. Definitely sounds like one for Elon Musk. And his response, according to the article,
quoted as, "It's a tough call." And the article actually adds a sort of laughing emoji reaction in its text there, clearly framing it as, a moment of humor, a contrast to the earlier tension.
Right, breaks it up a bit. The article also describes President Trump doing something during this gaggle.
Yes, it mentions him bringing out a laptop.
A laptop in the Oval Office gaggle.
Yeah, apparently to show some clips of what the source calls his remarkable economic wins. Uses all caps for remarkable.
Okay. And did the article say anything about his demeanor while showing these clips?
It did, actually. It focuses on his face, describing it as priceless, again, all caps, and noting a smirk.
Priceless and a smirk. These are the specific sort of visual cues the article chooses to include to paint the scene.
Exactly. Very descriptive choices.
So let's try and synthesize this a bit, based only on what this town hall article presents. We have the setup, Musk's role changing, Trump hinting he'll be back.
Yeah.
Then the main event, that confrontation with the Times reporter over the Pulitzer.
And Trump reportedly beaming during that.
Right. And then these other moments, the Mars versus government efficiency question, which gets a laugh.
And Trump showing economic clips with what the article calls a smirk.
So what does this specific snapshot, as this article lays it out, seem to tell us about the perspectives or maybe the communication styles involved here?
Well, the way this particular article pieces it together, it really seems designed to highlight a dynamic of confrontation, especially towards media institutions that the figures involved, seem to view negatively.
Like the New York Times in this case.
Exactly. Musk's style, as it's depicted here, comes across as very blunt, provocative, using terms like fake news, directly challenging the Pulitzer.
And Trump's reported reaction, the beaming, kind of underscores that.
In this account, yes. It suggests, according to the article, a sort of approval or maybe amusement with that confrontational stance towards the press.
And what about the contrast with the Mars question? How does that fit into the picture the article is painting?
Well, including that question and Musk's tough call response, it lets the article show a different side of his public persona, maybe, beyond just the political fight.
Still focused on huge, almost impossible challenges, right? Mars, government efficiency.
Precisely. It serves as a moment of, you could say, levity or maybe characteristic ambition that the article points out. And then Trump bringing out the laptop.
Showing the economic clips.
Yeah, that points to his focus, as depicted by this source anyway, on, broadcasting his administration's achievements during these media moments. And the description of his face, the smirk, adds that layer of performance to it, according to this report.
It almost feels like the article is carefully selecting these specific beats, these moments, to construct a particular narrative about how these figures engage with the press and, well, public narratives in general.
I think that's a fair reading of how this source presents it. This report seems to be highlighting instances that, from its viewpoint, show a really direct, maybe unvarnished challenge to what it sees as established narratives or institutions.
And presenting that alongside moments that reinforce the core image of these individuals. Musk, the visionary, tackling huge problems. Trump, the promoter of his economic record.
Yeah, that seems to be the picture painted by the specific details chosen for this article.
Okay, so just to wrap up our look at this specific Oval Office interaction, filtered through the lens of this townhall.com article. We've talked about the context of Musk's role, that sharp reported exchange with the New York Times about the Pulitzer.
President Trump's reported beaming reaction to that.
And those other details, like the Mars versus government efficiency question and Trump highlighting economic clips on a laptop.
All drawn specifically from this one source's account.
Right. And thinking about this account, the way this article picks these moments, the challenge to a major newspaper's highest honor, that almost absurd comparison between space colonization and bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it, about how public figures and media outlets are constantly sort of wrestling over how reality gets defined in the public square.
Absolutely. This source gives us one very specific, quite pointed perspective on that ongoing contest over truth and credibility. It certainly offers a clear picture of one such clash, as presented in this particular report, highlighting where certain battle lines, you could say, are drawn. Something for you to keep in mind as you see other accounts of similar events.
Deep dive in the building. UK, what really good? Let's dive in. Get triggered. Netflix, you son of an itch. In your show Adolescence, you pulled a race switch. The real killer teen is black, you made him white. This ish just ain't right. We're diving deep into the heart